My name's Sam, and this is Bob, and this Jeep will fuck you up.
Yep.
This is basically a Grand Cherokee with the 707 horsepower supercharged V8 from a Dodge Hellcat under the hood.
Which is crazy. I mean, the thought that you could take one of the best-selling SUVs on the market, a ubiquitous family car, and stuff it with 707 supercharged horsepower is just outrageous.
Underneath all this, and this isn't like the SRT8 Cherokee they make, the one that's focused on track use. Underneath all this, everything is geared towards straight line acceleration, right?
This thing is all about the dig. This thing actually does 0 to 60 quicker than the Dodge Challenger Hellcat because it's got all-wheel drive.
And all of that is courtesy of that giant supercharger that sits in the middle of the V, right on top of the engine. It's massive. It looks like a big aluminum briefcase, and it displaces about 2.4 liters. That's more than a Honda Civic engine. It's enormous.
What makes this different from, let's say, BMW X5M is this thing is basically just a drag strip machine. You know, there are sport SUVs out there that have suspension modes and traction control modes for the track. This thing is just all about the launch.
The big problem with the Hellcat is tires, rear-wheel drive, and it never has enough grip. You almost can't back out of the throttle soon enough on a public road to get the thing to hook up. This, all the time. It's got stick all the time, especially in a straight line launch, especially if you brake torque it.
You know what's the other thing that I love about this car is it looks almost identical to the regular SRT Cherokee, the one that only has 475 horsepower. The only difference is on the Hellcat-powered Grand Cherokee, there's a little badge on the door that says supercharged, and it's got 4 tailpipes instead of 2. That's it. It's a sleeper.
If you don't know to look for that, if you don't notice the giant calipers under those front wheels, these big honking brake calipers that help the thing stop, you don't know what you've got. And you could just be another soccer mom running through traffic.
Exactly. Should we nail it?
Do it. Every time you hit it, it's soft enough that everything it does is exaggerated. These big body motions, it's somehow more abusive and more hilarious than anything you get out of a Hellcat, anything you get out of anything else Dodge makes with this motor.
What I love about this thing is it feels like an old school muscle car. When you nail the throttle, the nose comes all the way up. You feel like you're about to pop a wheelie. When you hit the brakes, the thing squats all the way down. And because it's an SUV, it's got this roll in the corners. It makes you feel involved in the weight transfer of the car.
This is why everybody loves stuff out of the 60s. This is why everybody loves muscle cars, period. Because no matter what you're doing, you can be driving around taking the kids to school, you can be ripping off stoplight drags. It just feels special. It feels neat. It feels important, even if it's not. This still feels like a Grand Cherokee, but in terms of absolute capability, in terms of miles per gallon, in terms of the noise it makes, it's nothing like the base V6 or the diesel Grand Cherokee. It's just completely different. And Chrysler's able to do that because, frankly, they don't have a lot of options. They're in the middle of a lot of different product cycles. They're in the middle of developing a lot of other cars that haven't come to market yet. So they're trying to keep relatively old platforms interesting by swapping the bits around. And this dates back to a Mercedes ML SUV that's more than a decade old. So this thing's one great party trick is the launch, right?
Yep.
And that's a multi-step process. So walk me through it.
First, we're gonna turn this mode knob to track. Then we're gonna push the launch control button. The dashboard is telling us to hold the brake with our left foot. And then we're gonna floor the accelerator with our right foot. It's gonna rev, and then we're gonna let go of the brake and it's gonna take off. Should we do it?
Nail it.
Oh my God.
Nobody buys a Trackhawk by accident. There's something special about this, and there's something special here that belies the parts that it's made from, right? On paper, you think, yeah, okay, fine. 700 horsepower in a giant truck. Must be great. It's beyond that. There's something about how it's all tuned and dialed that makes it feel unique and makes it seem interesting beyond what the blueprint said.
Well, because it's fun. There are so many performance SUVs out there that feel so serious. They're worried about Nürburgring lap times and ultimate cornering G-loads. This just feels like the kind of car you get into and goof off because it's got this big goofy engine. It's got one party trick but it does that trick better than any other SUV out there. When you drive this like a normal Jeep Grand Cherokee, it performs exactly like a regular Grand Cherokee. It's only when you floor it and you start whipping that supercharger into gear that it just takes off and becomes this different beast altogether. If you don't already understand the reason for it, you will never understand.